Have you ever looked at the White House, that shining symbol of American power, and wondered who really laid its first stones? What if I told you that the very foundation of the People's House rests on the forced labor of enslaved black men and women? Today, we're going to unfold a true story, a tale of sweat, skill, contradiction, and forgotten heroes. In the summer of 1790, America is young, barely 4 years old as a nation. George Washington, our first president, has just signed the Residence Act, creating a brand new capital city, Washington, D.C., carved out of land given up by two slave states, Virginia and Maryland. The plan is ambitious: build a grand president's house and a capitol to show the world America's strength. But there's a problem. The area is swampy, remote, and empty. No big cities nearby, no flood of workers. Commissioners try recruiting skilled craftsmen from Europe. Irish, Scottish, English. They promise good pay, adventure. Few come. The response? Dismal. The dream is dying before it starts. So they turn to what was readily available in the region: enslaved African Americans. Owners hired out their enslaved people to the government for wages that went straight into the owners' pockets. Free black workers joined too, but enslaved labor became the backbone. Hundreds, maybe more than 300 over the years, would pour their strength into this project. October 13, 1992, the cornerstone is laid. Construction kicks off. Enslaved men like Peter, Ben, Daniel, and Harry, carpenters owned by the architect himself, James Hoban, arrive on site. Hoban, an Irish immigrant, brings his skilled enslaved workers from Charleston. These men don't just do grunt work. They quarry sandstone from Aquia Creek in Virginia, back-breaking labor under the hot sun, chiseling massive blocks from the earth. They raft the stone down rivers, haul it miles over rough roads. At the site, they saw timber, make bricks in kilns, clear land with axes. Stonemason Colin Williamson trains enslaved workers right at the quarry. They cut rough stone, Scottish masons finish and lay it for the iconic white walls. Enslaved carpenters frame roofs, enslaved laborers mix mortar, plaster walls. Every stage, from digging foundations to raising beams, involves black hands, enslaved and free. Payrolls from 1795 survive. They list names: enslaved carpenters hired from owners, paid pennies while their labor builds a mansion for presidents. The government never owned these people, but it rented them like tools. Wages for enslaved workers, pocketed by enslavers. The irony burns: a house for liberty built on bondage. Imagine the scene: Irish immigrants swinging hammers beside enslaved black men, free black laborers earning what little they can, all under the same blazing sun, building something none of them would ever live in. Yet their skill shows through. The White House stands solid, elegant, a masterpiece born of unwilling hands. August 1814. British troops burn Washington. The White House is gutted, blackened shell. Who rebuilds it? Once again, enslaved African Americans. The same pattern repeats. Hired out labor clears rubble, quarries do stone, raises fresh walls. The mansion rises again, stronger, painted bright white to hide scorch marks, earning its nickname, the White House. Decades later, presidents like Thomas Jefferson and James Madison bring their own enslaved people to staff the house, cooking, cleaning, serving. Edith Fawcett, enslaved by Jefferson, works in the kitchens. The building that symbolizes freedom houses the very institution that denies it. So did black people build the White House? Yes and no. Not alone. European craftsmen, white wage laborers, free black workers all contributed. But historical records from the White House Historical Association, National Archives, Smithsonian make it clear: enslaved black labor was essential. They provided the bulk of the workforce when no one else would or could. Without them, the project stalls. The White House as we know it doesn't exist in 1800. This isn't just about bricks and mortar, it's about contradiction at America's core. A nation founded on all men are created equal builds its most powerful symbol with stolen freedom. Yet those enslaved workers left a legacy of resilience. Their skill endures in every column, every arch. Fast forward to 2009, Barack Obama takes the oath. The first black president moves into a house built partly by enslaved ancestors. As historian Jesse Holland notes, it closes a circle. The least powerful people in early America help build the home of the most powerful, now occupied by one of their descendants. The White House isn't just stone, it's a story of pain, but also of unbreakable spirit. Next time you see it on TV or visit DC, remember the hands that shaped it, hands that were never paid, never free, but whose work still stands. Thanks for watching this chapter of Black history in America. If it moved you, like, subscribe, and share. Let's keep these truths alive. Drop in the comments, what surprised you most? See you in the next story.